The sun in Umoma did not just rise, it announced itself with a golden roar, spilling over the thatched roofs and onto the narrow paths lined with hibiscus and stubborn weeds. In this village, where time was measured by the harvest and the height of the yam vines, Adanna was the heartbeat of the marketplace. She was a girl with skin the color of deep mahogany and eyes that held the quiet patience of a river. Adanna loved Chidi. It wasn't the fleeting, butterfly-filled love of children, but a steady, grounding devotion. Chidi was ambitious. He had a mind that raced faster than the village stream and dreams that stretched far beyond the palm fronds of Umoma. But Chidi was poor. Not just village poor, but bone-deep poor, the kind that makes a man look at the ground when he speaks to elders. "I will go to Lagos, Ada," he told her one evening under the ancient Udara tree. "I will become a man of substance. I will build a house with blocks, not mud, and I will come back for you." Adanna believed him. But dreams need wings, and wings cost money. For 2 years, Adanna became a shadow of herself. She walked before the first cockcrow to fry akara by the roadside. She spent her afternoons under the blistering sun, carrying basins of palm kernels that made her neck ache and her palms calloused. Every kobo she earned, she tucked into a rusted Milo tin hidden beneath her bamboo bed. She didn't buy the new Hollandaise wrappers the other girls flaunted at the New Yam Festival. She didn't buy the scented soaps. She poured her youth into Chidi's future. The day she handed him the heavy bag of crumpled naira notes, the sum of her sweat and her hunger, she saw tears in his eyes. "Adanna," he whispered, clutching her hands, "I will never forget this. You are my foundation. As soon as I find my feet, I will send for you. We will be the king and queen of this village." She watched the dusty white boss swallow him up, her heart a mixture of pride and a hollow ache she couldn't quite name. She was the soil, and he was the seed. She had given him everything so he could grow. Lagos is a beast that eats the memories of men. When Chidi first arrived, the noise was a physical blow. The skyscrapers looked like giants reaching for a god he no longer recognized. For the first 6 months, he called the village chemist's phone every Sunday to speak to Adanna. "I am working hard, Ada," he would say. "I am a dispatch rider now. Soon I will move into a big office." "I am praying for you, Chidi," her voice thin through the static. "Don't forget to eat." But then, the Lagos factor began to seep into his bones. Chidi was smart, and luck, or perhaps the lingering blessing of Adanna's sacrifice, found him. He landed a job in a real estate firm, selling dreams to people who had more money than sense. He discovered he had a silver tongue. He swapped his worn shirts for slim-fit suits and his village accent for a polished synthetic lilt. The money started coming, not in trickles, but in floods. With the money came the city sisters, women like Toke and Sandra, who smelt of expensive French perfume and wore hair that reached their waists, hair that had never known the weight of a water basin. They looked at Chidi and saw a big boy in the making. Slowly, the calls to Umuoma became monthly. Then they became silent. When Adanna's face flashed in his mind, he felt a twinge of guilt, but it was quickly washed away by a glass of chilled Hennessy. He looked at his life, the penthouse in Lekki, the Mercedes-Benz, the women who laughed at his jokes and stroked his ego, and he began to look at his past as a mistake. She wouldn't fit here, he told himself, watching the city lights from his balcony. She's a village girl. She doesn't know how to use a fork. She will embarrass me. He convinced himself that the money he had sent her in the first year was payment for her help. He told himself he had settled the debt. He didn't realize that you cannot pay for a soul with bank transfers. Meanwhile, in Umuoma, Adanna waited. She sat by the roadside every evening, watching the buses arrive, her heart leaping at every shadow that resembled Chidi. The villagers began to whisper. "He has forgotten her," they said. "The city has swallowed him." But Adanna kept her head high. She continued her trade, her beauty hardening into a stoic grace. She didn't know that the man she loved was currently at a club in Victoria Island, spraying bundles of notes on a woman who didn't even know her mother's name. Chidi became arrogant. He thought he was untouchable. He began to take risks, bad investments, fast deals that smelled of fraud, and a lifestyle that burned through millions like dry grass in a bushfire. His city friends, the ones who called him chief and chairman, were the first to scent the blood in the water. When the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission came knocking due to a deal gone wrong with his business partners, Chidi found himself alone. His accounts were frozen, his cars were towed, he spent 3 months in a cramped cell, his only company the mosquitoes and the bitter realization that he had traded his gold for glitter. When he was finally released, stripped of everything, his name dragged through the mud of social media, his suits tattered, he had nothing left. He stood on the streets of Lagos, the same streets that had once hailed him, and realized he didn't even have enough money for a decent meal. He was a ghost in a city that only celebrates the living. For 3 days he wandered, sleeping under bridges, the taste of shame like ash in his mouth. He thought of his mother, who had died while he was busy popping bottles. He thought of the village. And finally, like a man drowning and reaching for a familiar branch, he thought of Adanna. He sold his last possession, a gold watch that had somehow survived the raids, to buy a one-way ticket back to the east. The bus ride back to Umoma felt like a funeral procession. Chidi sat by the window, his face hidden by a hood. The lush greenery of the countryside, which he had once found primitive, now felt like a rebuke. Every palm tree seemed to ask, "Where is the man we sent out?" He arrived in the village at dusk. The red dust was still there, but it felt colder now. He walked the path to Adanna's house, his legs heavy. He looked like a beggar, thin, unkempt, his eyes hollowed out by regret. He found her behind her house, tending to a small fire where a pot of bitter leaf soup was simmering. She looked older, her face etched with the lines of a woman who had learned to carry the world on her shoulders. But she was still beautiful. She was still the river. When she looked up and saw him, she didn't scream. She didn't run to him. She simply stood up, wiping her hands on her wrapper, and looked at him with a gaze that stripped him bare. "Chidi," she said. Her voice was flat, devoid of the melody he remembered. "Ada," he choked out, falling to his knees in the dirt, the very dirt he had been desperate to escape. "I have come home." "Home?" she asked, a bitter smile touching her lips. "Home is where you live, Chidi. You left this place years ago. You sent word that you were a king. Why is the king kneeling in the mud?" Chidi broke. He wept like a child, his forehead touching the ground. He told her everything, the greed, the women, the betrayal, the loss. He confessed how he had tried to erase her from his memory because she was a reminder of the poverty he hated. "I have nothing, Ada. I am empty-handed. I have come to ask for your forgiveness. Even if you want me to be your servant, I will stay. Just don't tell me to leave." Adanna looked down at the man who had broken her heart into 1,000 pieces. She remembered the nights she had cried until her eyes were swollen. She remembered the shame of being the left-behind woman. But then she looked at his hands, the same hands she had held under the udara tree. They were trembling. She didn't pull him up immediately. She let him feel the weight of the soil. "The money didn't control you, Chidi. It only revealed who you were. You thought you were helping me by leaving, but I was the one who built you. You threw away the architect and kept the building, and now the building has fallen." She walked over to him and placed a hand on his matted hair. It wasn't a gesture of immediate romantic reunion, but one of profound human mercy. "You will restart your life, Chidi, but not because I have forgiven you. You will restart because the soil of Umoma does not reject its own.
But listen to me, Chidi. The Adanna who waited for you died a long time ago. If you want a place in my life, you will have to earn it, one day at a time, with your own sweat. No shortcuts, no Lagos lies. Chidi looked up, hope flickering in his eyes like a dying ember caught by a breeze. I will work, Ada. I will farm. I will do anything. Then stand up, she said, handing him a bowl of water. Wash the city off your face. The soup is almost ready. As the moon rose over Omoma, Chidi sat by the fire, eating the bitter leaf soup. It was bitter, yes, but it was the most honest thing he had tasted in years. He was back where he started, with nothing but the clothes on his back and a long, hard road to redemption ahead of him. He had lost the city, but in the quiet of the village night, he realized he might finally find his soul.